After the war, the statesmen of the world, headed by President Wilson, sought to prevent its repetition by founding a League of Nations based on the following main principle. A general association of nations must be formed under specific covenants for the purpose of affording mutual guarantees of political independence and territorial integrity to great and small states alike. The covenant of the League was finally adopted on the 25th of May 1919, and all states were invited to subscribe to it. The world as it was in 1914 before the foundation of the League. The world in 1935, showing colored black the members of the League. The United States of America, Arabia, Egypt, Liechtenstein, San Marino, Monaco, and Iceland have never joined the League. And Brazil, Costa Rica, Japan, Germany, and Paraguay have resigned from it. Woodrow Wilson, President of the United States of America. Monsieur Léon Bourgeois, France, First President of the Council. Lord Balfour, United Kingdom, Second President of the Council. Monsieur Branting of Sweden. Herr Stresemann of Germany. Dr. Nansen of Norway, the great explorer and philanthropist. Monsieur Briand of France. Monsieur Albert Thomas, the first director of the International Labour Office. Count Apponyi of Hungary. Monsieur Scialoia of Italy. Monseigneur Seipel of Austria. Here is Geneva, the seat of the League in Switzerland. It is situated by a lake through which flows the river Rhone, traversing the city on its way to the Mediterranean Sea. The old building of the League, from which it is to move at the end of this year into the new building before your eyes. Its first stone was laid on September the 7th, 1929, and it is composed of 4 parts. First, the Secretariat, which comprises the offices of the International Civil Service, responsible for preparing the work of the organizations of the League and carrying their decisions into effect. Then, the Council Chamber. Then, the Assembly Hall, flanked by the committee rooms. And lastly, the library, which will be the biggest reference library in the world. The total length of the building is over 400 yards, and its area is approximately 18,000 square yards. The Assembly Hall will accommodate about 550 delegates, experts and secretaries, about 500 journalists, and 800 spectators. The League carries on its work by means of the Assembly and the Council. Here is the Assembly. This is the building in which it has met for some years, but which has now been used for the last time. Here is a closer view of the entrance, with a Swiss policeman in his picturesque full-dress uniform. More delegates arriving. Now here we are inside the hall. At the end sits the President in his high chair, and immediately below him stands the Speaker. On the floor of the hall sit the delegates. At the last meeting of the Assembly, 26 ministers for foreign affairs, 28 cabinet ministers, 11 ambassadors, and 91 ministers plenipotentiary attended. Now we come to the Council of the League, its chief executive organ, the empty room with its horseshoe table awaiting the members. The Council in session. It is composed at present of representatives of the following states: the United Kingdom, France, Italy, Soviet Russia. These are the permanent members. The Argentine Republic, Australia, Chile, Denmark, Ecuador, Spain, Poland, Portugal, Romania, Turkey. These are the non-permanent members. Monsieur Litvinov of Soviet Russia and other members of the Council leaving after a meeting. Journalists come from the 4 quarters of the globe to obtain news of the League. Here are some of them discussing events in the big lobby behind the committee rooms, which contains, as a conspicuous feature, a notice board on which the times of meetings are displayed. Journalists talking with Monsieur Laval, the French Prime Minister. The informal manner in which the press obtains its information in Geneva marks a new departure in international practice. Here is the press room, where sometimes as many as 400 journalists compose their messages, which are then dispatched by a special telegraph and telephone office all over the world. From this room, it is possible to speak with countries as far away as America, India, and China. The bar, where journalists refresh themselves in the intervals of obtaining copy. It is naturally here that most of the comments are made. An international newspaper stall, where newspapers from all over the world can be bought. Finally, the Café Bavaria, where the journalists relax from their labors. The latest rumors, true or false, float around here up to 1 o'clock in the morning. All speeches are recorded in this way and subsequently distributed. An office in the Secretariat. Here is Monsieur Joseph Avenel, the Secretary General, at his table. He is the executive officer of the Council and the Assembly and is at the head of the International Civil Service, which is the Secretariat. The International Labour Organization exists to secure, by means of agreements between states, the universal establishment of legislation imposing humane conditions of labor. It is autonomous, possesses its own general conference, its own governing body, and its international staff. Upon its governing body are represented not only governments, but also employers and workers' organizations. The Permanent Court of International Justice is an autonomous international organization composed of independent judges chosen to represent the main forms of civilization and the principal legal systems of the world. The court is composed of 15 members elected for 9 years by the Council and by the Assembly. This is Mr. Jacklin, the present holder of the post of Treasurer of the League of Nations.
Contrôle remplit une mission excessivement modeste. Elle fait le métier de la bonne ménagère. Elle désire que la société des nations ne dépense ce qu'elle ne possède point. C'est tout.
For a period of 15 years, at the end of which time the inhabitants were to decide by a plebiscite whether to remain under the League's administration, whether to attach themselves to France, or to return to Germany. On the 13th of January 1935, they voted by an enormous majority to return to Germany. So that order might be maintained during the voting, an international force composed of British, Dutch, Italian, and Swedish troops were dispatched to the territory. You see them being reviewed by the League High Commissioner, Mr. Knox. The voting was carried out in perfect calm and order, and the Saar, by the exercise of its own free will, is now once more a part of Germany. Relations between Italy and Ethiopia had long been strained, and the matter came to a head on November the 26th, 1934, when an incident, subsequently repeated on December the 4th, occurred at Walwal, a village situated in the south of Ethiopia, in a region where the frontier has never been demarcated. Though these particular incidents were settled by arbitration, yet despite all the efforts of the League, the dispute between Italy and Ethiopia degenerated into war. As a result, the Council, after examining the history and details of the dispute, reached the conclusion that the government of Italy had had recourse to war in violation of Article 12 of the League Covenant. This conclusion was in turn adopted by 50 members of the League on October the 9th, 1935. Italy and 3 other states refused to accept it. In agreeing to the conclusion reached by the Council, these 50 states have automatically assumed the obligation to apply sanctions against the state which has violated the covenant.
Monsieur le délégué, on ne supprime pas la guerre, on la remplace. Et on la remplace parce que l'histoire ne s'arrête pas. Si pour son compte, la Société des Nations s'arrête, l'histoire qu'on ne peut pas forcer par des sanctions poursuivra son chemin, car son chemin est la vie. Nul mieux que l'Italie ne peut exprimer cet esprit nouveau, cette nécessité impérieuse de la vie. Cette loi en plein développement spirituel et matériel étant resserré par des vicissitudes historiques et des restrictions internationales de la limite territoriale qui étouffent, l'Italie est le pays qui doit faire entendre devant l'Assemblée des États sa voix des grands prolétaires qui demandent justice.
Je ne ferai qu'une brève déclaration. La France fera face à ses obligations. Je l'ai dit devant le Conseil, je l'ai répété devant l'Assemblée. Le pacte est notre loi internationale que nous ne pouvons ni enfreindre ni laisser affaiblir. En cette minute où chacun doit prendre sa responsabilité, c'est avec émotion, vous le savez, que j'assume mon devoir. Mon pays observera le pacte. L'amitié me dicte un autre devoir. Ce n'est pas renier notre foi dans l'autorité de la plus haute institution internationale que poursuivre avec elle, en même temps que l'application de sa loi, la recherche d'une solution de conciliation. Le gouvernement français s'attachera passionnément à cette œuvre de paix, pour laquelle, j'en suis sûr, aucun concours ne manquera dans cette Assemblée.
The maintenance of peace is the first objective of British foreign policy and the constant ideal of the British people. War is a callous anachronism, and mankind will never taste of lasting happiness until it has finally renounced its delusive appeal. If civilization is to survive, we must abolish in practice that which we have condemned in principle. The League has two main tasks. First, to avert war by the just and peaceful settlement of all disputes. Secondly, if we fail in our first objective, to stop war. It is with the second of these two tasks that we, as members of the Assembly, are now concerned. And it is by the League's effectiveness in realizing this aim that the League will be judged. We cannot neglect our duties and our responsibilities. Action must now be taken.
Le gouvernement éthiopien est engagé à fond dans des opérations de légitime défense. Il tient pourtant à renouveler la déclaration qu'il a déjà faite. Il est à la disposition de tout organe qui pourrait être constitué par le Conseil ou par l'Assemblée en vue d'interrompre immédiatement les hostilités. Il est prêt à conclure une paix honorable, mais qu'on n'interprète pas mal les paroles et qu'on ne leur donne pas un sens qu'ils n'ont pas. Le gouvernement éthiopien a le devoir de proclamer en toute loyauté que, subissant une guerre injuste, décidé à défendre jusqu'à la mort son indépendance et son intégrité, quelque longue que doit être cette guerre, il ne cédera pas la cause. Il n'acceptera aucune condition accordant une prime à son agresseur. Ce serait là un défi à la morale internationale.
The last war cost the world 70,000 million pounds in gold. The world spent on armament in the year 1933 1,000 million pounds in gold. The budget of the League of Nations for the year 1934 was 1,200,000 pounds in gold.